The Trump administration rolls out some broad strokes or core principles of the eagerly awaited 2017 tax reform plan. They're billing this as a reform plan for economic growth and job creation. While it was a bit light on detail, there was plenty there for taxpayers, financial markets, and others to chew on. Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, is here to discuss the initial reaction to the plan and some of the key points. Some people say it's billionaire friendly. Others say it's the right thing at the right time. Your take?
Yeah, it's a tough call. It's really both, I guess you could say. I mean, what's good for business is good for billionaires, but when you have tax breaks in there for middle-income families across America, it's kind of one of those things that everything benefits except for the federal deficit, which paying for this is the part of the details we haven't really seen yet.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see if this gets any further because of it adding $5.5 trillion to the deficit. Let's talk about the impact on the middle class and the possible tax breaks.
Yeah, I mean, simplification is a big term here, and Nikki mentioned it earlier, going from 7 down to 3 brackets. And, you know, a 1040 form has 106 pages of instructions these days. If we could cut that down a little bit and make it a little easier to file taxes, I think it would eliminate some of the workarounds that people are doing where they're trying to avoid taxes by changing their activities. If we have less to pay and it's simple, we'll live our lives, we'll do what we do as consumers, and you know, the idea is everybody benefits.
It would also double the standard deduction. And what would it do to the alternative minimum tax, which has been controversial forever?
Yeah, and I mean, it's talking about throwing out the alternative minimum tax altogether. And part of the problem with the alternative minimum tax was it was a complicated mess for people with incomes over $83,000. And that was put in place years ago. They never raised the limit on where people qualified for the alternative minimum tax. And it's turned into just a big snafu, maybe a boon for the tax preparation industry, but for nobody else.
How about the reduced capital gains rate?
Yeah, that could come into play and help quite a bit. And sort of along the lines of a reduced capital gains rate is the repatriation tax. You know, there's trillions of dollars sitting overseas that companies like Apple Computer don't want to bring back to the U.S. because they'll get taxed at 35%. Well, there's talk of taxing that at 10% just to bring it back to the States. The idea is you bring in tax revenue and now you have more dollars circulating in the U.S. economy.
And you're talking about a 15% corporate business tax rate, too. I mean, that has never changed, as far as I know, historically.
It's gone up and up and up. And one reason corporate tax rates go up is that corporations don't vote. You know, people vote, so, you know, they try to manage people, but corporations, you know, and they've been a major source of revenue. So cutting that as deep as they want to go, they're saying 15. I think the financial markets would be happy with 20 or 25, and probably the Trump administration is targeting that. It's kind of shoot low and then have some negotiating room there.
And really no knee-jerk reaction from the financial markets. What's this going to do for investors? Because I think futures are kind of flat this morning. Stock market just waiting to see?
Yeah, you know, the cornerstone of this is what you just referred to, the corporate tax rate. And, you know, the markets know that if corporations are paying less taxes, their earnings go up. If corporate tax rates drop by 10%, earnings will go up by 8%, and that's a pretty big bump. The markets are expecting some sort of a cut. If there was no corporate tax cut, or if this thing just fell flat on its face, I think you'd see the financial markets take a nosedive in adjustment to it.
All right, if you want to see how this impacts you, you'll find the story and the inside story on news4jax.com. And about 10:30 this morning, you can revisit this interview and hear about Joe's take on what's coming down from the White House.